and welcome to the jungle garden in Denmark on this beautiful November day with 5 degrees and sunshine. I thought that for once, I think it's the first time ever, I'm going to make a garden tour in November so that we can see what is still looking good and what has already started to go into winter mode. The New Zealand bed is normally doing its thing during the winter. We do protect some of the things, but not yet. The weather's too good to do that. And everything in here is looking good, I think. We've got the phormium here in the front, getting bigger and bigger, and the tree fern behind it is also looking really, really good. And then we've got 2 cordyceps in the back, as you can see, and they're also looking good. The only thing that has really started to show signs of the coming winter are the ferns, getting a bit brown, but that is all. We also got a Schefflera taiwaniana, which is doing very well, considering that it probably gets a bit more sun than it should in this bed. But we've got another Schefflera in the garden that has been planted where there is a lot more shade, and that is not doing very well. So perhaps this is actually the right conditions for it. The Australian bed looks a bit empty because we had a scare. We had 2 nights with degrees below 0 Celsius, and that made us rush out and dig up the things that can't tolerate any frost, including the bushes from the Australian bed, like the callistemons, the bottle brushes, and the grevillea and the banksia. So the only thing that is left now is the eucalyptus, which is always staying out here in winter. And we didn't really need to dig all those things up because the weather has been beautiful since then, but it is just not to know. I mean, better safe than sorry. And here we have Fatsia japonica, still looking good. It always does quite good during the winter. It does look a little pathetic in the spring, but it always comes around. At the moment it is flowering, as you can see. And behind it we've got the Albizia julibrisson that has become really big. It'll be fun to try to squeeze that into a polystyrene box this winter. I'll just see how it goes. Still got musabaceus in the background looking good. Here we have some more musabaceus. We decided to plant all our pups this year, so we've got a lot of musabaceus that needs to be protected when the time comes. And here is a phormium also doing really good. Since we have started with that new winter protection, our phormiums are doing so well. And here is a persicaria, the variegated type. It is beginning to show signs of winter. It gets blackened by frost, and then it disappears, and then it comes back again next spring. And here is Santadesia Himalaya, also known as white giant, and it's been doing really, really well. I got a lot of seeds from it last year, so I have made a lot of new plants, and I did intend to plant out some more of them this summer, but I just didn't have the time. So they're still in our plant room, in one of the plant rooms in the stable, and then I'll probably do it next year so I can experiment a little here for winter. Last year this one survived with one of our wooden boxes and protected by straw. and I'll probably do the same again this year. But if I get the rest planted out next year, I can experiment a little and see if they can survive without any protection at all. Here is Yucca, which has seen better days, but it's still green if compared to the ferns in the background and the hostas, who are they are completely browned off. But when the time comes, I will cut the Yucca back, protect it with straw, and then it'll have one of our wooden boxes for protection for the winter. As you can see, the Paulownia tomentosa has started to drop its leaves, and they are beginning to look a bit tired. So in the spring it'll be cut down to about 15 centimeters above the ground. It'll be coppiced, and that gives us these huge leaves every year. But the palm trees are still looking nice and green and are still pushing out new leaves. Our fig tree, or our fig bush, is looking really good this year. Hopefully we can keep it looking good with our new protection boxes. It always gets, it has a hard time every winter, but I hope that we can change that. And behind it is a really, really good looking cordyline australis. As always, looking green and lush. And again, the palm trees are looking really good. This is a waggy, and it's busy pushing out new leaves in the middle, as you can see. And then we've got the newly planted Magnolia grandiflora, which is also looking good. And next to it, the Mahonia sweet caress. Oh, sorry, soft caress. Oh, with a nice thistle in the middle. Wonderful. And I'm a bit apprehensive about this because we've lost one before during winter, so we'll just have to see how well it does. And here is a Tetrapanax, which has done really, really well. It's looking very good, but I didn't plant it. It has just popped up by itself, as they do. And that is actually very good because the mother plant, the original plant, it has not done very well this year. It was affected badly by the winter last year, and it hasn't really bounced back. Next to it, we've got another tired Paulownia getting ready to drop its leaves. And another good looking banana plant in the background. And then we've got a Fatsia polycarpa green fingers here, also still looking good, which they do, and that's why we've chosen to put in some more of those. So the sun has disappeared and we're back to a normal, dreary November day. But even without the sun, the golden bamboo looks really good with the yellow stems. But in total, the garden still looks nice and green and fresh. And that's the advantage with these plants. A lot of them are evergreen. So now we can just hope that the winter won't be too hard like it's been the last couple of years. The yucca bed has done well, okay here in summer, but the damages they got in spring from all the rain has proved to be fatal for at least the Yucca rostrata here. As you can see, it is clearly rotting away. What a shame. The variegated Yucca gloriosa is doing fine. There's no problem with that. And the same with the small Yucca rostrata over here. They're doing quite good. The green Yucca gloriosa had some damages in spring after all that rain, and it's put out a lot of new shoots, and we have to decide which ones to keep and which ones to cut off. But it'll be in spring, we think, because we don't want to cut things off right up when we're getting up to winter. But what we have learned from this whole thing is that this area too has to be winter protected, not from the cold but from the rain. So we'll have to put a roof over it during the winter. And as you can see behind the scaffolding for our never-ending roof project, the alstroemeria is still in flower. They've been flowering since June. Wow. This is how our courtyard looks in autumn. It is now October and it's 2024. All the plants in pots have come in where they can stay frost-free over winter. And those 3 big black pots along the water feature usually contains 3 banana plants. But all this is going to change, hopefully already next spring. We really like to have these stones instead of, I don't know if you call them tiles, because we think it suits the courtyard. But I am getting worse and worse with walking, and it's just too uneven for me to walk on, so this will probably be changed as well next spring. And then there are the water features. Those 2 small bodies of water takes much more room to maintain, or much more time to maintain, than the pond in the garden, even though it's a lot bigger. There's no proper filtration and there's no skimmer, and it's a lot of manual work. So we will probably get rid of those as well and turn it into something else. And this is the terrace in the courtyard, where we normally in summertime have some big house plants like monsteras and that sort of thing with lush leaves. And that will be changed as well, because again, too much maintenance, too much watering, and it is difficult for me to walk out here. It's a shame, but hopefully we'll get something really nice and different out of this. Here next to the garden we have a few paddocks, grass paddocks, that we don't really need because we've only got 1 horse and a Shetland pony left. So we have decided to start on a new project, and it hasn't really got anything to do with the jungle garden. It's more with biodiversity, it is called nowadays. And up here on the hill we are going to plant a small wood, and down here there'll be a wildlife pond. As you can see, we've already dug it out, and it's not going to be a pond like the one in the garden. This will be without pumps and filters or anything. It's just for wildlife, newts and frogs and whoever else wants to use this pond. Behind the pond we're going to make a grass meadow, and on this side of the pond next to the garden we're going to make a wildflower meadow. So I think that'll be good, but I can show you more in the spring. This is what we call the cold plant room, and this is where we overwinter all the plants from the courtyard that are not frost hardy. They're all in pots. The temperature in here is 5 to 10 degrees Celsius all winter, and then we've got growth lights because otherwise it'll be too dark in here. And we've got all sorts of things. We've got a Phoenix rubellini, I think it's called, Washingtonia robusta, a bottle brush, a few cordyline of the more tender kind. The first one is a Torbay Dazzler, and the second is a Red Star. And then we've got a big Phoenix canariensis, and it is getting big. It'll be a problem soon. Then we've got some Sengiber Myoga here at the end, and they are frost hardy, but I had dug them up to sell them, and those are the ones that are left, and they will disappear in winter and come back in spring. And then we've got some cordylines some callistemons, some bottle brushes from the Australian bed, because they can no longer survive a Danish winter. And over here we've got a not hardy ginger, and under the crib a palm tree. I can't remember the name, but I'll put it on. And then we've got a few banana plants, pops from the Musa basjus in the garden, and normally we take them indoors, but they take up so much room. So this year we are trying to put them out here and see if they survive. Here in another empty horse stall, I store my cannas from the garden. They're dug up and cut down, and then they're potted up in the smallest pot possible, with some spent compost. I just reuse the same compost every year because they don't need nutrition. It's just to store them during the winter. I've also got some dahlias in pots. I'm lazy, so I can't be bothered to dig up the corms, or the tube. This is what we call the warm plant room, and this is where I keep cuttings from house plants, but also some of the more tender plants from the garden. We've got the papyrus from the pond, as you can see here in the front, and I've got the Musa sycamensis, because they just do a lot better here than in the cold plant room. There's also an alocasia, and the two Melianthus major are here as well. They got a bit offended of being moved, but as you can see there, especially the one to the right, has come up with a lot of new shoots. The fog you can see in the picture is because I have a tent in here where I've got some more special house plants, and there's a humidifier in there that keeps the humidity around 90%. Every year I bring in the colocaceas from the garden, but I find it so hard to keep them alive during the winter. There's so little difference between enough water and too much water, and very often they simply rot for me. So I have been experimenting for the last couple of years, and this year I hope I have found out a solution that will work. This year I'm trying out a method that I've used on the more difficult houseplants. I'm using sphagnum moss because when you wet the moss, it keeps the comb humid but not wet, and hopefully that will do the trick. But we'll just have to wait and see. I keep the biggest of the plants here outside the tent, but the smallest ones are inside the tent. So here in the tent, this is where I keep all my more difficult house plants. Plants I'm trying to grow from seeds or from combs or that sort of thing, just for fun. Just to have something to do in the winter time. And then I've got some plants in here that demands a lot of humidity. And as you perhaps can see, the humidity in here at the moment is 96%, if you can see it through the fog. The humidifier is going for half an hour every second hour, and it's just come on now. So this is where all the small colocaceas are, and for now they're looking good. My experience is that they get a leaf or two, and then one disappears and they get a new one. I just keep them going. I don't want them to get too vigorous in here. It's just to make them survive. In the second tent, there's also heat mat, but no humidifier, because these plants do not need such high humidity. And this is where I experiment with growing things from seeds. Here in the front, I'm trying to get some bamboo growing. It's not going very well. Then I've got some pups from Yuccas in the garden, and I've got some cuttings or plants now made from cuttings from Fetcher in the garden. And then I've got some echium that I've managed to grow from seeds, and if they get big enough, then I'll plant some of them out in the garden next spring. They are only biennials, so they'll only have a short lifespan. And this was all for now. Thanks for watching.